Look at yourself for a second. Not the version you show the world, but the one sitting alone with thoughts you never say out loud. The one who feels heavy for no clear reason. The one who keeps going even when no one is watching, clapping, or caring. If you're here right now, this video is not an accident. By the end of this, you will understand why the pain you feel, the silence around you, and the loneliness you carry are not signs that you are weak or broken, but proof that you are being shaped for something most people will never become. Life doesn't come gently. It hits you without warning, strips away comfort, and forces a choice. Crumble quietly or stand tall while it burns. Pain is unavoidable. It is the one thing every human shares, the constant written into existence itself. But pain is not here to destroy you. It's here to reveal you. Most people never learn this. They run from discomfort, numb themselves with noise, distractions, fake happiness, and approval. You didn't, and that already separates you. When life pressed down on you, when it isolated you, when it took people away instead of adding them, it wasn't punishment, it was selection. You see, comfort creates followers, pressure creates leaders. Pain is not just suffering, it is instruction. Every moment you felt alone was teaching you how to stand without support. Every night you questioned yourself was sharpening your awareness. Every time you smiled while hurting, something dangerous was being built inside you. Control. Not control over the world, but control over yourself. That's the kind of power most people never touch. When you smile at pain, you're not pretending it isn't real. You're looking straight at it and saying, "You don't own me." That moment changes everything. Because pain stops being your enemy and starts becoming your teacher. Without pain, people stay comfortable, average, replaceable. With it, they either break or transform. And transformation is violent. It strips illusions. It removes fake connections. It leaves you standing alone with nothing but truth. That silence you're living in right now isn't emptiness. It's space. Space to build discipline, space to hear your own thoughts, space to become someone who doesn't need validation to move forward. Most people are terrified of this stage. They call it depression, bad luck, abandonment. But those who understand what's happening realize something different. This is the forge. This is where weak identities die and real ones are formed. If you feel like you don't belong anywhere anymore, good. It means you're no longer designed to fit into small places. What comes next isn't comfort, it's clarity. But before that, you need to understand one thing clearly. The world does not reward potential, and it does not care about your pain. It rewards those who learn how to use it. And that's where everything changes. Once you understand that the world doesn't care about your pain, something inside you either collapses or hardens. Most people collapse. They wait for sympathy, permission, or rescue. You don't get that luxury. And that's not cruel. It's precise. Because the moment you stop expecting the world to save you is the moment you start becoming dangerous in the best possible way. Right now, whether you admit it or not, you're standing at a psychological crossroads. One path leads back to comfort, excuses, and numb repetition. The other leads forward into responsibility, discipline, and self-respect. And no one is coming to guide you. That's intentional. The strongest people are built in isolation because isolation forces honesty. You can't hide from yourself when there's no one else to perform for. This is where most people panic. They mistake the silence for emptiness. But silence is not empty. It's revealing. It exposes every weakness you've been avoiding, every habit you've been justifying, every fear you've been feeding. And that's exactly why it hurts. Pain intensifies when lies die. The reason you feel restless, dissatisfied, and irritated with your own routine is because part of you already knows the truth. The life you're living is smaller than the life you're capable of. That gut feeling you keep suppressing, that's not anxiety, that's awareness. Awareness is uncomfortable because it demands action, and action requires sacrifice. This is where most people turn back. They convince themselves that one day things will change. They wait for motivation, inspiration, or a sign. But nothing changes because nothing is confronted. Growth doesn't begin with motivation. It begins with disgust. Disgust with mediocrity. Disgust with repetition. Disgust with wasting your own potential. If you feel that disgust rising inside you, don't suppress it. That's the spark. That's the moment the internal shift begins. But here's the part no one warns you about. Transformation feels lonely. When you stop complaining and start observing, people pull away. When you stop explaining yourself, you become misunderstood. When you stop seeking approval, you become threatening. That's not a flaw in the process. That is the process. Weak systems reject strong individuals because strength exposes fragility. The more disciplined you become, the less you fit into casual conversations, shallow goals, and empty routines. And that isolation will test you. It will tempt you to return to comfort just to feel included again. Don't. That urge is the final defense mechanism of your old identity. The version of you that survived by blending in is terrified of the version of you that's about to stand out. This stage is not about motivation or hype. It's about decisions made in silence, waking up when no one is watching, training your mind when no one is cheering, holding standards when lowering them would be easier. This is where real power is built, not in loud declarations, but in quiet consistency. You're not becoming cold, you're becoming clear. Clear about what drains you, clear about what strengthens you, clear about who deserves access to your energy and who doesn't. And once clarity sets in, something irreversible happens. You stop negotiating with weakness. You don't hate it, you outgrow it. And when that happens, the life that once felt heavy starts to feel adjustable. Not because it got easier, but because you got stronger. And once you reach that point, something subtle but permanent changes inside you. You stop asking for permission to become who you are. You stop explaining your goals to people who only understand comfort. You stop seeking validation because you finally understand something most never do. Validation is a leash. The moment you no longer need to be seen, you become unstoppable. This is where discipline replaces emotion, not because you don't feel, but because you've learned not to obey every feeling. You train when you don't want to. You focus when it's boring. You act when fear whispers reasons to wait. This is a stage where the gap between who you are and who you want to become starts closing, not dramatically, not loudly, but relentlessly. Day by day, choice by choice, you build a version of yourself that doesn't rely on motivation or mood. And this is where most people on the outside get confused. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're distant, intense, different. They're right. You changed because staying the same was costing you your future. What they call distance is boundaries. What they call obsession is standards. What they call arrogance is self-respect. You're no longer trying to escape pain. You're using it. You're no longer running from discomfort. You're choosing it because now you understand the truth. Comfort weakens. Pressure sharpens. And sharp people don't beg life to be easier. They become strong enough to handle more. The chaos that once overwhelmed you now feels familiar. The pressure that once crushed you now feels like fuel. You don't panic when things get hard anymore, because hard is where you do your best work. And that's when life starts responding differently, not kinder, but clearer. Opportunities appear where excuses used to live. Confidence replaces hesitation. Action replaces overthinking. You stop living in your head and start living in execution. And here's the final shift, the one that defines everything. You no longer see yourself as someone trying to become strong. You see yourself as someone who refuses to be weak. That identity changes every decision. It changes how you wake up, how you work, how you speak, how you walk away. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to prove it. Your consistency does that for you. The world doesn't notice the moment you become dangerous. It notices the results later, and by then, it's too late to stop you. You didn't get lucky. You didn't find the shortcut. You paid the price most people refuse to pay: solitude, discipline, honesty, and sustained effort. And that's why you'll keep going when others burn out. That's why you'll stay calm when others panic. That's why you'll rise when others retreat. Not because you're special, but because you chose responsibility over excuses, action over comfort, and growth over approval. This isn't the end of your struggle. It's the end of your confusion. You know who you are now. And once a person knows that, nothing, no noise, no doubt, no resistance can put them back to sleep again.